This is the Messiah Hour with Ari Louis.
All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have everyone aboard. If you'd like to email us throughout the program or after the show, you can do so at MessiahHour@gmail.com, or you can email the station, IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio@gmail.com. And of course, if you'd like to make a financial contribution, you can do so through my PayPal, which is IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. Again, the PayPal is different than the station address, so I'll say that again, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. Ever wanted to know what is luck, and does luck play a role in your life, and what does Judaism have to say about that? On the line right now from SoulMazal.com, who can actually tell you about your name and what it means in this regard. And of course, he's the hit author of the hit book, The World of the Ger, which can be found on gergear.com. Welcome back to the program, Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi, how are you doing out there?
Hey, Ari, thanks for having me back as always.
Sure, so this is a very interesting topic because people say all the time, Mazal Tov, which translates into English as good luck, but usually we say it like if, let's say, someone were to get married, we'd say Mazal Tov. And we're trying to say have a good journey. What do we mean when we say Mazal Tov to somebody?
I want to know what you think it means, just for context. Give it a shot.
I think it means that you're doing something good, and I hope it continues to go good. Like, stay on that path. That's what I think it means.
Why do you think that?
Because if you say Mazal Tov on, let's say, like someone had a son, you say Mazal Tov, you would hope that that turns out to be good. Because if the son grows up to be a Rasha, then it wasn't necessarily so good. He was born to some degree, even though that sounds kind of mean. So I think when they say Mazal Tov, like, it's good you had a son, and we hope he turns out to be a good boy.
I am very impressed, Ari Louis.
Hey, I'm more than just a pretty face,
Ari
Rabbi.
Louis, you have really blown my mind today.
All right.
Nobody gets that. You're the first guy I've ever literally met that got that right.
Cool. And what's so cool is this is not pre-staged, people. We just did this right now. They think this is a setup, I guess.
I'm very impressed. No
right.
joke. Because everyone is going to not think about it, and they're going to say, good luck, Mazal Tov, right? Right? You know, you got married. Hey, good luck. What luck? This guy, we thought he would never get married. Good luck. No. Ari is 100 million% right. It was Mazal that he found her, right? He was born. Thank God he didn't die in the birth, right? Scary thing. She gave birth. Oh, thank God he got through his toddler years, right? Things are going good. Okay, thank God he got his bar mitzvah. He made it through his adolescence. He's going to high school. Your life is one big, long thank God, right? And so when you finally get those life moments, like Ari's telling you, right? You got married. You went to the chuppah, and everyone says, Mazal Tov. Right? Thank God. This guy was healthy. He's got parnasa. He's taking care of his wife, which, by the way, is the essence of today's show. Remember that, what I just said? That he has a life and a wife and the ability to provide. That's going to be the essence of Mazal. But before we get there, then, you know, he's going through his life moments, and you just keep telling the guy, Mazal Tov. Because it's Mazal. It just happened to be that he keeps living and keeps being successful, kept the ball rolling. And if you think about it, the fear of man is that we don't have Mazal Tov, right? Oh, my God, I'm never going to get married. Oh, my God, I'm never going to pass my test. Oh, man, this is going to be horrible. I might never eat again. I have no money for food. What am I going to do? Right? So every day we wake up with our paranoid thoughts and feelings, and life is over, and we're doomed, and everybody hates me, and I can't go anywhere. I'm never going to succeed. Every day is like George Carlin, I think, says it best. No, not George Carlin. Sorry, I think it was the guy's name, but he says every day I broke my record for consecutive days of staying alive. Right. So every day you conquer your fears. Right? You find another way to live. You found out things you could do that you couldn't do yesterday, as far as you were concerned. You didn't know you could get married. You found your wife. You didn't know you could provide for your family. You found a job. You didn't know that you were a good father or mother. You found parenting. And that's when you say Mazal Tov. When you have the bar mitzvah for your kid, it's just a Mazal Tov, just as much a Mazal Tov for the parents. Right? They raise a happy, healthy kid. And you can quote Ari on that.
All right, so now let's say when someone gets married, someone has a child, etc., you say Mazal Tov. How much is that Mazal, and how much is it the person's effort? Who gets credit for who? Or credit for what, I should say.
Yeah, well, it's a very complicated question, but the answer is easy, right? The answer is very easy. The question is complicated because when you think about it, what goes into making anything? I mean, have you seen the YouTube videos on how to make a hamburger from McDonald's? Have you ever seen that?
Well, maybe not that one, but yeah, they have YouTube pretty much for anything. You can pretty much make anything find out on YouTube. That's right.
So to make a delicious Big Mac at McDonald's, right? For the advertisement, it literally takes like a production team of 20 people and 10 or 15 hours of work for one hamburger, right? Because you know the juice just right and the vegetables just it's insane, a whole thing for one snapshot. So when in your life, everything is pretty much that little fractal, right? Everything that you do, there's a production team involved. And totally divine providence, experience, and even luck. Even though Mazel doesn't mean luck, you do require a little bit of luck, as you find it in your sensory realm, right? And there's everything you do. It's a production. Every moment is like a fountain that God keeps creating. And your job is to participate. Your job is to participate in that and to try to be an expert, try to do your best, try to master it, try to be aware of it, try to look beyond your limitations, right? So when you're trying to be successful and people are giving you a hard time, you're trying to look past that, right? Try to find peace where there's machlokas or argument. So the question is, how much is you? Obviously, we've not lost track of the question. It's all you in terms of your perspective of the universe and your efforts, right? According to your effort, you should be trying to do everything, but not in terms of like responsibly doing everything. Like if I don't do it, I'm a bad person. You should be, and this is a major, major law that I'm about to say. Everything we're talking about is wisdom, right? If we are making that hamburger, right? There's everybody there has a job. They went to school and they were trained and they have a wisdom of doing their job. And right now in this conversation, Ari is performing his wisdom. I am performing my wisdom. The guy that made our computers is doing their wisdom, right? The Skype connection and the phone service. Right now there's an operator watching this phone line, making sure it keeps its integrity. That's a wisdom. Infinite wisdoms right now. Infinite. The paper I wrote my notes on. Right now there's a factory making more notebooks so I can make more notes. And anything you can think of, there's wisdom. Someone's doing it. Your job is to know that wisdom as much as you can, right? Ultimately, I should know about the paper I write on because, if, hypothetically, one day someone says, we're giving a radio show and their coffee spills on their notes and their notes are all smeared and they're all paranoid that their life is over. They're going to sound dumb on the radio. What do I do? And I say, hey, I just happened to be reading an article on the internet. There's a type of paper they have now where the ink doesn't smear. Right? I just happen to have been researching the wisdom of notebook paper. People are funny. They have weird things they research. That's not a true story, but the fact is people have random knowledge, random facts, and if you acquire wisdom, like King Solomon says in Proverbs, acquire it like lost treasure, you're just better off. You are that much more enabled and empowered to become successful. And again, that's your endeavor. Now, the answer to the question, none of that is actually true. You have no power. If the coffee doesn't spill on the paper, you don't get to show your wisdom. So it's for naught. You get no credit. It will never be revealed. God is the Mazel maker. So eventually, everything comes from God and Mazel. When your number is called, God calls your number. You can't say, I'm going to be a master of paper and notebooks, so whenever someone spills coffee, they will have to ask me, right? So that's already a bit arrogant and egotistical, but not only that, that's merit, right? If I am the supreme knowledge of notebooks, then I will be, for sure I'll get the shefa or bounty about notebooks. No, it doesn't work that way. Your success, your life, your legacy, your sustenance, all those things we said, you found the wife, the legacy, you have the chuppah itself, that's the parnasa, the sustenance, and the fact, the life experience to come together. All those things that even though you have wisdom to make it happen, that God emanates, comes from God. God pulls the strings and puts those things together. So the more enabled your vessel is to be in motion, to allow God to move you, then you get the things that God gives you. And so the merit is more in a different sphere. If you merit to understand something, like in a certain impact of wisdom, that's already a merit. You struggled, you tried, you accomplished. It's a different world. But in Mazal, everything comes to you from God, and again, your job is to be ready for God, connect to God, understand God. That's I guess maybe it's your merit. You're born with a certain ability to understand, a certain intellectual level, a certain strength level, capacity for pain and pleasure, whatever these things are. But ultimately, it all comes from God, and that is Mazal is the pathway that God sends to you and puts you ultimately in motion according to His divine plan.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour at IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. Our guest this afternoon is Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book The World of the Ger. Rabbi Katz, I don't know if this is the right way to say this, but let's talk about Mazal and potential, because, for example, there's an understanding that every person has the beshert, or some say 7 besherts, but we see all the time that people don't get married. They never get married. So is that a situation where it's a failed Mazal, or it's a different type of Mazal, or the Mazal came to them and they rejected it? Well, how would you explain that particular situation?
Didn't you read the Talmud? There's no Mazal in Israel. There's no such thing as Mazal.
Right, but the Jews are above it.
Right, so this is the famous thing. This is what makes me pull my hair out at night. If you want to know how to make Rabbi Katz pull his hair out, this is the question to ask. Rabbi Katz, isn't it true that there's no Mazal for Jews? Right? And that's what everyone says. So they're going to say it's astrology, it's not real, Mazal Tov doesn't mean that. Here's the answer. The answer is, when the Talmud says, Ein Mazal LiYisrael, there's no Mazal for Israel, they are not asking if we have Mazal or not. That makes no sense. It is so part of reality. It is reality. It's nonsensical. What the question is, and this is brought down in every source about Mazal. I happen to teach out of the Encyclopedia of Mazal. It really is called that. And its proper name is called Otzer HaMazal, which is a likut, a collection of every chazal and rabbinic writing about Mazal. And this is not an opinion. This is uniform. This is the teaching of Mazal. The question, again, is not, do we have Mazal? The question is, can we change the Mazal we have? And that's the answer to your question, Ari Louis. You're saying, I have a great Mazal to find sales on clothes. I can go in any city, and I go to TJ Maxx, and I get a great sale every time. That's my Mazal. And you say, that's great. But I just can't find the right person. I date, and it's never right. And it's always a close call, and I get hurt in the end. Whatever people say, right? The answer is, can you change that? Can you be the person who not only gets great discounts at TJ Maxx, but can you be the one who finds, I think everyone's kind of dream at one point, sit on the airplane and find your mate on the airplane, right? We're going to be sitting there for a 5-hour flight, and can the woman of my dreams be on the flight next to me, or whatever it is, our magical fairy tale dreams, instead of, constantly being on the short end of the stick, which many of us feel in certain aspects of our life. Why am I always the one that doesn't get the food right at the restaurant? Why am I always the one who steps in the puddle on a rainy day and ruins my shoes and socks for work? Why am I the one whose umbrella blows backwards in the wind? The answer is, this is on one angle you can say this is the meaning of life. Really, no joke. It's that you can change your Mazal, but it is the essence of the hardest thing in the world to do. Right? If you're going to have a focus on why do I work on myself, why do I really do Torah mitzvahs, why do I do the things that I do, aside from the personal things of it's an ethical lifestyle, olam haba, it's the right thing to do, God commanded it, I'm a good Jew, all these things you do, or even not a Jew, just a good person for the commandments that are on humanity, whatever it is you do, that's already a personal sphere, that's your personal interest in serving God. But if you're going to put all those together in a type of system that I know we're not using the word merit, but and to take it out of the context of merit in this discussion, but a merit system, right? If I've done a lot of really amazing things, you know, I really worked on, you know, why am I not good at this and why am I not good at that, and you really struggle, you know. I think you know, here's one for you, Ari, in sports. I think I saw an interview. Ray Allen says he is not a natural shooter. I don't know if you know that.
That's fascinating because he's arguably the greatest shooter in NBA history as far as a pure shooter.
Right, and so he says he literally made himself a great shooter. He worked, and then you see who he is on the YouTube videos, which we've highlighted in this show.
But I would say, if I was speaking of all due respect, Mr. Allen, you didn't make yourself 6'7", you know, and you, you know, I could also make myself a great shooter, but it would get blocked, you know, most of the time in the NBA.
I say the same thing, because I'm a big guy, and like I happen to be 5'7". I'm a Jewish Ashkenazi guy. But if I was 6'5", you better believe I'd be a lineman for the Patriots.
There you go. So, or a team that doesn't cheat. But the point is, you'd probably be in the NFL. So I definitely respect that Ray Allen put in the work. And by the way, he deserves credit because there are guys that are 6'7" that don't shoot like him, and so he put in time. But he had to have some type of help from somewhere else to have the body to be 6'7".
You're deflating his ego.
Well, you know, if Mr. Allen's listening, I apologize. You can write me an email. I'll write back. I mean, I've seen you hit a lot of big shots against the Phoenix Suns. It's okay. I got you back a little bit.
Maybe the pressure in the ball was a little bit cheap, you know, shortchanged.
Ray Allen is too classy to actually cheat, so he wouldn't do that. he was, you know, he a big supporter of the Jews. Went to Yad Vashem when he was here in Israel. I think he went in college when he played for UConn. So he's a good guy. You know, he can take a little ribbing. It's okay.
I'm very impressed with his interviews on YouTube.
Yeah, very intelligent guy, very bright.
But that's the point. He changed his mazel. No joke. I mean, there's a classic example of a guy that changed his mazel. I think a lot of sports guys could be a good analogy of that. I mean, look, Michael Jordan, if you want to see a case of changing mazel, go watch a clip of Michael Jordan, 1985. Very awkward style, a lot of dunks, and his jump shot was really ugly.
And not a lot of passing.
Not a lot of passing.
Yeah, people forget that. You're right.
Really ugly jump shot. Then look at 1996 in the later championship run. You won't find a more beautiful jump shot in the world. And the passing was incredible. You know, he that's a guy who changes mazel. And again, you find it a lot of times when you get older, especially in sports, you have to adjust. The mental comes in, and that's what they're doing. That they're aware of the game, right? Here's a case of mazel. I'm going to break protocol here for a second to change directions in the middle of the stream here. The way mazel works is when you're new, and you know, they say when you go into pro sports, it's a fast game. Everything is sped up. So I'm making this up for context, but you'll understand the point just from what I've seen from basic YouTubing and things like that. If you're gonna take a jump shot in a basketball game, you're gonna think, okay, I'm a young buck, right? I'm 22 years old. I got lots of energy, right? I gotta jump higher than this guy. I'm stronger than this guy. Just outman everybody. And you saw like LeBron was doing that when he first came in the league. Every young guy does that in any endeavor he does. Right? If you're Wall Street, I'm going to stay up longer than you. I'm going to work harder than you. I'm going to travel more than you. That's the power of what's called a bachur in Hebrew. Like the young buck that you are in your 20s, you just out energy people. But the wisdom's not there. There's no wisdom. So when you're in your 30s, in terms of the pro sports, you find tricks. Right? Like let's say, I mean, again, making this up for context, but based on what I saw from the interviews, Michael Jordan would say, you know, when I make an attempt at a shot and the guy flinches, if I don't take the shot, I can give a tug on his jersey, right? Because the guy's in position where the ref's not looking. He's totally flustered. Then I fall backwards on a fadeaway and hit the jump shot every time. Because you will never be quick enough if I give a little tug on your jersey. So that is cheating, but pro sports is cheating. That's Boker Tov. But it's a good cheating. It's like, you know, I watch wrestling videos too, NCAA wrestling. And if you try to do a wrestling move on somebody or MMA or martial arts, it's impossible. Your body, you know, doesn't cooperate. And the muscle memory is what makes it happen. But there are ways to cheat. And I say cheat, it's little things you can do. For example, in wrestling, you can grab onto like a pressure point on the guy's elbow, right? And that's a mazel move because the young buck, he's just going to blow through you and try to overpower you. The smart guy says, I'm going to save energy the whole match, push pressure points, maybe like pull a hair out, do little things. And, like the Russian teams, they're known for this stuff. Really annoyingly, poke the eye. You can call it shady and dodgy, but pro sports are a little bit less than holy. But that's Mazal. When you realize it was available and it was there. Now, in holiness, okay, it's a little bit different, but it's the same ball game. But in terms of there are things going on around you all the time, and that's why you fail, and that's why you're miserable. That's why you think you're unsuccessful. That's why you always do the wrong thing, right? But when you find out how to work on yourself, you start to realize that there's a wisdom. Ray Allen, let's go back to him for a second. I'm again making this up for context, but for point of reference. Let's say he says, I'm 6'7", why can't I shoot? What am I supposed to do? Dunk over everybody? So if he understands the mechanics of the fingertips and the wrist, and he says, look at my hands. I have a beautiful hand, meaning my thumb is in coordination with my index finger. My wrists are very fluid, right? And if you sense your gift of God, that you have a fluid motion in your, let's say, from your entire arm movement, then by training that, cultivating that wisdom that was untapped, you can get mechanical and wisdom to the point where you can make a shot every time. That's wisdom, right? If you are looking for women in the wrong spot in terms of dating, you say, what's wrong with me? And you thought you were a biker. I'm going to go to a biker bar, and I'm going to meet a woman, a female biker. That's where I'm going to get married. And you say, but did you ever think maybe you were a poet? He says, what? You say, yeah, you're actually great with words. You're really fantastic. You inspire me a lot. He says, I'm not like that. I don't do that. But if he thinks about it, and he polishes up, and he hears his voice, he says, yeah, I am pretty poetic, I think. And then he goes to a poetry reading night at a different kind of bar. Right? Okay, it's a bar, but it's not the same venue. And then it's basically, it's like, welcome home. Where have you been? Right? Change of mazel. Change of place, change of mazel. Change of name, change of mazel. This is how you change your mazel. Through prayer, merit, in terms of great effort, but being aware of how to make those changes. Always a change. There's a famous thing in Talmud. A change brings about the change of mazel. And it's really true. If you really find out who you are on a deeper level, and for Ray Allen to say, I'm not just a 6'7" guy that made it to the NBA because I'm 6'7". I'm a 6'7" guy who happens to have a great body that does things that most people can't do. Right? LeBron James is also a very large guy, but his body does things that other people's can't do. That's cultivated through mazel and through wisdom. And when you find out how you operate in space, you can basically change and become ultimately successful in whatever you do.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. You can email us throughout the program, MessiahHour@gmail.com. And, of course, our guest this afternoon is Rabbi David Katz, the co-author of the hit book, The World of the Ger, which can be purchased on GerGer.com. Rabbi Katz, let's talk about the zodiac, because you were mentioning what says in the Talmud, no mazal among Israel, which is not exactly understood so well. And I want to know, a lot of people think that the zodiac signs are not Jewish, but my understanding is Avraham Avinu did create them. So talk about the zodiac signs and how they relate to our personal mazal.
Okay, this is, first of all, let's set the record straight here. Astrology is not treif. That's number one. Number two, that means it's kosher. Astrology is part of Torah Judaism. And for those following along that want to challenge that, it's a commentary. I believe it's the Radak in Isaiah chapter, I think the end of chapter 40. If I'm wrong, then it's 41. But I think it's the end of chapter 40. It's the Radak commentary. If it's not the Radak, it's on that. It's around there. The Zohar says that's where Abraham's name is from. His name means Bara Ma, the name of God, which is 45 Ma, and Bara means creation. And they get it from a lot of Kabbalistic interpretation. Read the commentary there about how the stars have names and number and have influence in astrology, but not in terms of don't go out on Tuesdays or you'll get run over by a car, but moreover, the way that the mazalos work, the trajectory of how the universe cycles, which in Hebrew is tekufot. So if you understand tekufot, which in kind of a weird way is the Jewish calendar, like that kind of knowledge. That wisdom is part of what brings redemption, because the nations see that the wisdom, the real wisdom, is with Israel, and that's like the clearest proof for the world. So astrology is true and it is real. It is not forbidden in Avodah Zarah. Now, if you say I am going to let astrology run my life, okay, I am a Gemini and today it said don't go out of the house or you'll die, and therefore I didn't go to my house, that's wrong. Don't do that. Like Ari said, we went out from the constellations. Also, if you pray to angels and if you are just under the influence of the stars, all right, that's already a different ballgame. Now, so where is it kosher? It's kosher because the stars, the constellations, are just one part of God's creation. And anything that is affecting your life is going to be part of God's creation, right? You can't deny the existence of that there are constellations. There are months, right? Jewish months are predicated on those constellations. Look in the 7 days of creation. Right? The sun and the moon and the stars will be serve as signs for your holidays and all those things. So there is a precedent, right, there is a universe. It's not a fantasy. And we have to say that the universe has an effect, let's say at least on the holiday level, just on the very minimum. And then you have astrology books that say the month of Sivan is the month of the giving of the Torah, and Gemini Talmim in Hebrew is symbolic of God and the Jewish people. You can make a million drushes on this, and they're cute. And I don't know if they're emes lamito, absolutely true, but they're cute and interesting to learn. But I'll tell you where it's real, where it really gets real. Let's say you're born on Shavuos. Ari, I'm taking you through this little meditation.
Like King David, for example.
Exactly. So you're born on Shavuos. You're going to be my subject, okay?
Okay, cool.
You are born on Shavuos, and you're a baby with consciousness. I can talk to you, okay? In our little metaphysical realm. And your dad and your mom are holding you, and you're gonna get your bris in 8 days, and everyone's talking about, wow, isn't this great? He was born on Shavuos. I bet he's gonna be a big tzaddik. He's gonna learn a lot of Torah. How could he not learn Torah? He was born on Shavuos. Of course he's gonna learn Torah, right? Do you think that's gonna affect you?
Yeah, I think so. If everyone tells me that's what's going to happen, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Some other people are doing it.
Exactly. Your whole life, you are going to hear, oh, come on, he was born on Shavuos. He's got to be a Talmid Chacham, right? You cannot escape that. And guess what they named you when you were born? They named you David. Right? And they say, hey, David, nice to meet you. My name's Bill. How'd you get that name? You say, well, I was born on Shavuos, and, my parents named me after King David, and I'm expected to be quite a Talmid Chacham, And then he says, because God is pulling the strings, it's amazing. My cousin is Jewish. He was born on Shavuos, and they named him David too. I never would have told you that if you wouldn't have told me your whole story, right?
Right.
So now you got me to tell you my little song and dance, and God pulled me into your life. Okay, your whole life is going to be built around these little things. Then you were born Shavuos morning. Now, what does that mean? There's one thing you should be able to tell me what that means if you were born Shavuos morning.
I was born when the Torah was given, the anniversary of the Torah was given?
Please. Cheesecake, Ari.
Oh, cheesecake. Oh, sorry.
So you love cheesecake. And when you go to New York, you're looking for the cheesecake right away.
Right.
But you joke about this stuff, but really it's your culture. When you went to yeshiva now at 20 years old, and you were a Baal Tshuva, and then you said, "Hey, this is great, guys. I was born on Shavuos. This is awesome. This is me. This is all about me." And classic Baal Tshuva stuff, right? And you say, "Hey, what are we gonna do tomorrow morning?" And they say, "Oh, Ari, that's the best part. We're gonna eat endless cheesecake." You're like, "Really? I love cheesecake. I absolutely love cheesecake." So the point is, you have a relationship with it. Maybe you didn't notice, but you had a frum uncle when you were 10, the one you never talked to, and you went to his house, and you didn't know it was Shavuos. You grew up, not religious, and just this religious uncle. And for some reason, on your birthday, all the other kids got like, regular cake, but Ari Louis got the cheesecake.
Right.
And you're like, man, this is horrible. All my friends make fun of me. I didn't get like the baseball player, cheesecake, not cheesecake, regular cake. Why did you get me some weird cheesecake? And he's like, the frum uncle who's like, daunting is like, Ari, it's because it's Shavuos and we eat cheesecake. Take it. And you don't understand anything. But all you know is like, you got the cheesecake, right? Like, why do all the kids get the great stuff and the Jewish kid and I get cheesecake? I mean, this is halfway of a personal story. When I grew up, my mother, we didn't keep kosher, but we never had like weird cakes in the house. It was always cheesecake, like strudels, like Jewish food. And I didn't understand that cheesecake was actually good. It's cheese. Why am I eating cheese? As I grew older in high school, I'm like, yeah, we got cheesecake. This is amazing. And actually, just a quick Mazal story. On Facebook yesterday, there's a group called Sfat Chevra, and somebody posted a message. There was a bagel shop in Sfat like 10 years ago, and they said, does anybody have the number of M Bagel, because they had the best cheesecake in Israel? Where do you think that recipe came from, Ari? My mother gave me the recipe to give to this guy who was a Lubavitcher from South Africa that opened the restaurant, and he had nice bagels. I said, man, you got to have cheesecake. He says, you have a recipe? I said, yeah, my mom has like this incredible recipe. So I gave him the recipe, and they had the best cheesecake in town. And 10 years later, I'm looking on the internet, and someone says, does anyone have the cheesecake, the number of the guy? And, or a way to get the recipe. And all the women are saying, yeah, post it if you get it. And I was saying, I'm some guy, 37-year-old bloke in Spot. I'm like, yeah, it's my recipe, And I posted it. So like all these like baking women are calling me, like thanking me for the recipe, right? The point is, that's Mazal. And the way I'll just to continue the personal side of the story, how did my mother get the recipe? It was a famous recipe of, I think it was Lindy's cheesecake. Lindy's in New York?
I've heard of it, yeah. I don't think I've had the pleasure of having it, but
so it was a famous place. I don't know if it's still around or whatever. And somebody leaked the recipe in the 60s illegally in the newspaper in Pittsburgh, PA. And my mother happened to have was reading the newspaper that day, took the recipe, so she's been making the Lindy's cheesecake for now, I guess, 50-some years, right? So what happened in 1960, well before I was born, these people are now saying this is the greatest cheesecake in Israel. I mean, if that's not Mazal, I don't know what it is.
Well, what about it working the other way? Let's say, I was born in Shavuos, and everyone expected me to be a big Talmid Chacham, and they put pressure on me. And I interpret it as a bad thing, and I reject the whole thing. And maybe if they didn't tell me all this was going to happen, I would have been a little more relaxed. So what about it working backwards?
So you went out from your Mazal, meaning you were not under the constellation power, right? But you still are in proximity to Shavuos, right? Names or Mazal are all good. It just means that whatever you did become, I would like to. You want to try to give an example? What did you do? Just give me an example. What did you do? I'm pushing you to be the biggest Talmid Chacham. Your name is David. You were born on Shavuos. You're the next king. I'm like one of these neurotic fathers, right? I put you in yeshiva your whole life, and you just, you were good till you're like 10, one of those kids, right? Then you flaked out. You dropped off the derech. You're fighting it. Fill in the blanks from there.
Yeah, so maybe I go out the derech, and then I don't learn Torah at all. But it was my destiny to learn Torah, or at least that's what people told me.
What do you do?
Well, maybe a part of me would still be interested anyway, so maybe I'd study Torah in an academic way and not in a spiritual way. I'm not sure. I don't know.
So what you're saying is you have this constant tug of war in you of, you believe in Torah. You're honoring your father. You're not saying like total disregard, right?
Right.
But you're like I'm a man. I'm gonna do it on my terms, right? I don't believe or whatever. Let's totally make this up, okay? I'm totally making this up, but to give it in context, okay? I don't believe, and to dramatize this, I don't believe in my dad saying that I should learn Talmud. Like, he's wrong. There's way more to Judaism than Talmud. So I want to learn. I learn Shlomo Carlebach, right? I like to in the minyan in town. I like to sing. I'm a singer. I'm kind of like vocalizing what goes on in this fictitious guy's head, right? I like to sing Kabbalat Shabbat. And if my dad doesn't like it, then he's got to accept me for who I am. Right? I like to sing. I like to give Divrei Torah that's nice and meaningful. And I think he's wrong. My dad's wrong for putting the Talmud down my throat. So you hear what's going on? This guy is connecting to his Torah, his thing. He can't get out of it, right? He's so into Torah, just not like it was put upon him. You see what I'm saying? Your mazel, you can't run from your mazel. Right? If Torah is put on you and you're running from it, you're still with Torah. You're trying to answer up some kind of equation in your head, and it's not a bad thing. And ultimately, you're working on some kind of Torah notion in your mind. The creation is built from Torah, and you happen to have been born on like the sanctification of that. Now, you may have been born on some other aspect, not so much Torah. You were born on Sukkot. So Torah is not now the big thing. Now it's a matter of, Ari, the meaning of life is you have to shake a lulav. I better never catch you not shaking a lulav. And you're saying, every year my dad's got to make me get this branch. I have to shake a lemon and a stick. I'm not interested. Right? But you see what I'm saying? You're wrestling with it. You're dealing with it. You're working on it. God has employed you to work out these gevuras, these stringencies that we, the people, are putting on you, because we expect you to be according to your mazel. Right? You are born in the morning, and your mom tells you, I'll never forget giving birth to Ari. In the morning, it was so hard. I thought I was going to die. And Ari's mazel is, my mom thought she was going to die by giving birth to me. I mean, it's sadistic. But whatever it becomes, you hear this story over and over and over again, it becomes something that you have been given by God to work out. Right? You're working on it and you're working it out. And you're just dealing with it. You are given circumstance. And that's really what mazel is. And the constellations and the stars are avenues in that. My water broke in the car, and it was 100 degrees that day in Phoenix. I'll never forget how hot it was. I thought I was going to die. Right? So the sun becomes a mazel card. Then by divine providence, you are born on a day where, again, I don't know astrology terms, but Gemini was in the sun degree, right? It was the day of the sun, whatever that means. So this all works out. It's divine providence. So those kind of things, it's a divine universe, but God runs the show, not the sun, the moon, and the stars.
Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. Our guest this afternoon is Rabbi David Katz. And for the record, my mom had a pretty easy birth with me. My brother's a little harder because he was cesarean, but overall, thank God, it was well for my mom.
And you're an easygoing guy.
Well, yeah,
Look at your muscles. Is there anybody more easygoing than Ari Louis?
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I'm matching your energy. Maybe that's why I got it, chameleon. But what I want to know, there's a verse in Moed Katan, and we had Dr. Gerald Short on about 6 months ago, and I brought this up to him because this is one of his lectures, that the three things that are in a person's, I guess, mazal or destiny is life expectancy, like how long a person lives, how much money they have or make, and how many kids they have. And he then said, what's the point of doing anything else? Because those are the three main things you want. But then he answered and said, the way you would change your mazal is then tefillah. So I want to know your thoughts about that and thoughts of that concept in Moed Katan.
Yeah, so this is the big three that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Banim, Mazon, Chaim. Those three things are what emanate directly from God. And they come to you regardless. And if they don't come to you, that's called coming to you. Right? Like, what they say that when you pray and you don't get what you want, it's because God simply, you say, God, why didn't you answer me? He did answer you. He said no. Right? So your non-wife, that's your wife. Right? I'm married to no woman. That's who I'm married to. Right? For example, that's how you could say it. I have so much money. I have no money, or my life is no life. And everyone has these three, right? You're all missing something in your life, or something in your money, or something in your legacy of kids. I have sons and I didn't have daughters. I had daughters, I didn't have sons. I married a redhead, I always wanted a blonde. I mean, that's superficial, but you get my point. You get it from God, right? I almost got married 10 times. I never got married. Came from God. So These are what you work on. This is what your wisdom is for. Your wisdom is to become expert in these areas, right? You get wisdom to put food on your Shabbos table. You don't look, and this is a big yesod, by the way, big foundation, I'm telling you. You don't look for the heavenly manna for your Shabbos table. That is wrong. That is bad thinking. Right? That is an outright miracle that had a place in the desert before the Jews entered the land of Israel. The entire point of Israel, they say that the air of Israel makes you wise. Right? The land of Israel is a natural, conducive to Torah. Because you're supposed to use wisdom to elevate this world. I mean, that's what getting married is. It's always the upgrade of just the elevation of this world. It's a different experience of having Shabbos on paper plates than on china. It's a different experience to be a father with wisdom raising his kids rather than enslaving the wife when the dad goes off to do whatever. So in those three areas, from let's say a level of grotesque kind of porous living to upgrading through wisdom, you those three avenues are where you do it: life, sustenance, and legacy, meaning your wife and your kids. And again, under these three pillars, you can have everything come into it in terms of your career choice, your finances, your home, where you live, how you live, and eventually, as the Vilna Gaon says in Mishlei, your mitzvahs come in here, right? How you have your legacy is how you mechanech your kids, what education they get in Torah. If you put them to be Hasidim, and then you are denying them Litvak Judaism. Now, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not a good thing. And it's up to you with your wisdom to know. And again, the variables are insane. Maybe I didn't do it because the school district here is better for this and that. Maybe my kid doesn't read so well. Maybe my kid doesn't like the fact that I'm that way. Maybe my wife comes from a family against this, and it'll cause my father-in-law to do harm to my child. Right? Maybe the school district is great, but this one teacher is not good. There are endless things, right? Fear runs rampant in these areas. Mazon, your sustenance, how you work your job. Do you want to get a promotion? Maybe it's not in your interest to get a promotion because you'll enter a new tax bracket. Maybe you have to move. Maybe if your job makes you more Jewish, you have to convert and move to Brooklyn. Maybe you don't want to convert. Maybe everyone tells you to convert. Just, religion, politics, money, women, entertainment, everything that makes up life, which essentially mitzvahs are holy life. The Shabbos type food, religious garment and articles, religious lifestyle. All right, so that all falls into it. How you manage your character traits comes into it. But where merit comes in, opposite of Mazal, is you merit certain given variables, and that's not from Mazal, right? I don't know if offhand, I don't want to give a bad example, but merit and Mazal are different. You have merit, you have schus, you have blessings that come your way, and that it just either is, or you can improve it by improvement of character, right? But based on merit. But Mazal really is a constant relationship. You are in constant relationship with God, and the energy between you and Him and is constantly coming down. Thus, to get into that is wisdom. I forget what you said about the life expectancy or living, or changing.
Yeah. Well, right, the years of one's life is in Moed Katan. That's
right,
one of the three.
Right. And so it's really about how many years are you going to live successfully. Wisdom is quality of life. You can take it allegorically. How many great years am I going to have? How many real living years am I going to have? In terms of changing your Mazal, having the wisdom to know how to pray. Wisdom, Mazal, Shefer are kind of one card. Having the wisdom to know, to look, to improve. And then in the three columns of legacy, Banim in Hebrew, Mazon, sustenance, Chaim, life. All of this thing, it just builds and builds and builds, which I think is the essence of really the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, Zohar, all of these schools of thought. Real Jewish spirituality, the essence, speaking of King David, this is what King David is on about in Psalms and passes that legacy on to Solomon, which is what he's on about in Mishlei, Proverbs. Real great Jewish spirituality, non-denominational, everyone, universal Torah. This is what that is.
All right, again, this is the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Our guest is Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book, The World of the Ger. Rabbi Katz, last question for you. We talked about zodiac signs. We talked about merit. We talked about Mazal as far as increasing Mazal, changing Mazal. I want to know about a person's name because that is one of the few things that's apparently Ruach HaKodesh, that comes from a kind of a higher place when a person names somebody. So I want to know how the name plays with their own personal Mazal.
Okay, so your name is prophetic, number one. It is as prophetic as the Chumash. It's that prophetic. It's prophecy. Now, it doesn't mean that the person being the prophet knows that. Again, if you want to be a better prophet, then work on your wisdom. If I'm going to name my kid who was born on Shavuos, if I am really great in wisdom and Torah, I mean really great, I can name him with an accurate mazel, right? That's what they did in the Chumash when Levi was born. Leah said, great, my husband loves me and now he's attached to me, because Levi means attachment. They knew what they were doing, right? The tribes were created from prophetic knowledge of wisdom and mazel. Right? There became a Yehuda, there became a Reuven, there became all the tribes. That wisdom actually goes back to Shem and Aver. Shem and Aver were the original masters of, in terms of developing the wisdom, and their yeshivot. This is brought down. I think Rashi actually brings it in the Chumash. The prophecy of Shem and Aver, where in the names Peleg was one of the prophetic names given in the Chumash, prophesying that in the times of the future, there will be a great division, the Tower of Babel. So names are your mission. Pinchas Eliyahu with killing Zimri and Cosby in the desert, that was prophetic, the Zohar says. That entire mission was in his name. So when Eleazar and his wife, his parents, named him, they had prophecy, whether that much intentional or not, you have to ask them. We don't have a direct chazal saying that, but the point is, that prophecy was given over. The way it works then, remember, God is in motion here. In Hebrew, speech, also all speech, is latent with a word called Yitzchak. It's Yitzchak where it's spelled with a sin rather than a tzaddik. Yitzchak is a world of all angels that only serve God. Meaning in our world we have nature and things. In that world, it's like only dedicated to God. So when we speak, we actually have latent mazel in our words. Right now, what I'm saying, if you are really, really good and a prophet, you would hear the Torah in my voice that I don't even know I'm doing. And when Ari speaks also, and when you at home speak, all of us, we are conveying the secrets of the universe, but we just don't know. We're not that good. Not enough wisdom, not enough Torah knowledge. Moses would know. Moses would hear you and say, yeah, here's what's going on. That's the Shekhinah coming through. So again, you can infuse that, and that's why Moses was Moses when he wrote the Torah. That's what prophecy is. He spoke prophetically. So when you have a name, and this is what I do, which you can find on soulmazel.com for those interested. When you have a name, and everyone does have a name, even if your name is Hey You, it's your name. Your name has letters. And the letters of your name are rich and wonderful because it's like a rainbow of colors. When we speak, we're boring, right? I might tell a story like this. I went to the store, and then I went home, and then I went to the bus stop, and then I got a drink, and then I had a snack, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up, and then and you're going to find the letters Aleph, Zayin, Oz every time. Then. And you'd say there's no variety here. So that's just absolutely mundane, and there's nothing spiritual or holy in what I said, unless you're an insanely deep level to find outrageous astrological computation. But a name is different. For example, my name is David Pesach ben Leib HaKohen. Look at the different letters there. I mean, you have a Dalid, a Lamed, a Pei, just a total, a Samich, a Ches. You know, if all these, if the names are long, so it's like a little equation, random letters, that gives you mix. Once you have the mix, now the Kabbalah can come through like ripe fruit. For example, we say that Mashiach is the Gematria 358, which is the same as Nachash, snake. So the teaching is that Mashiach removes the snake from the world. I did a woman's name a couple days ago. You won't believe this. The initial letters of her name, if you take the initial letters of all the parts of her name, like for example, my name, David Pesach ben Leib Cohen, you would take the Dalet of David, the Pei of Pesach, the Beis of son of, the Lamed of Leib, and the Hay of HaKohen the priest. And let's say that would formulate something. Her name, when you took the beginning letters, in exact letters, spelled the name Bilam. I never saw that in my life. I'm like, I can't believe this. So I told her, you know, the way you would read that mazel is, you know, you have in your soul a power, you know, of anti-avodah zarah, anti-witchcraft, to remove the power of Bilam. His names are only good because they come from the world of Atzilus, which is a godly world, and it's only good there. So she would have, I don't know, I can't speak for her, but to make it up in my own context, she would have a life of, again, this is not true, I'm making this up. She would have a life of, you know, she would say, wow, it's amazing you say that. I always had this thing, you know, I knew like in my high school there were these girls that were witches, and I was against them, and I called the cops, and then they wanted to kill me, and then I freaked out, and I did tshuva, and I went to seminary, and I learned about the Zohar, which is all about Bina, and I'm a woman, so I became Bina. Like, it's a huge Mazel story. And the fact is, everybody has an incredible story of Mazel, and your name is the energy that has it. For example, your name is Ari, and you're being called Ari, which has energy in it, right? It's different if I called you Bob, right? If it's the Bob Louis show, it's different than the Ari Louis show. So if there's going to be an intro made, it's going to sound different from the, hey, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ari Louis show, as opposed to if we said, hey, everybody, welcome to the Bob Louis show. See how my voice changed? It's Ari Louis versus it's Bob Louis. I cannot say it the same. I have to say it different. It doesn't work. Now, what if you called yourself Bobby? Now it's the Bobby, but now Bobby has like a comical sense to it. Every Bobby I know has a comical side. So you get those energies your whole life. We called you, you know, if your name was Aryeh, different than Ari. You know, why do you call yourself Ari? Is your name Ari? Is it Arya? And if it is Arya, why don't you go by Arya? And if you did go by Arya, it's radically different than Ari. So now that you have those energies in your name, your last name is Lewis. Your last name isn't Katz. Totally different name. It has a totally different connotation. They don't call you Kitty Cats when you're 10 years old. Or they might call you King Louis, whatever it is. Then you figure out who's King Louis, who's King Louis. That's your mazel. You got to figure out. So then, when I do your name, I am taking your name on in those 20 minutes, whatever it is. Right? Because it's the same energy. If I'm looking at Ari Louis, and in my mind, I'm looking at the Aleph and the Resh and the Yud, all these things, I'm going through the same energy you have. Right? I'm experiencing the same thing you do, but in a much higher way, and then my job is to bring it down and teach you the prophecy in your name. Because it's prophetic, and if you apply the laws and learning tools of Torah, which is the art form of learning prophecy, and you put that to the name, the same energies come out that you live over your 120 years of Chaim, Mazon, and Banim. You can get into that in the sublime wisdom of Torah on a high level, and when you give it over, you would hear, you know, your shaykhis, your relationship to those three things.
Wow. I can't believe the program is almost at its close. This has been very fascinating stuff, and for more, you you could go to Rabbi Katz's website, solmazal.com, and learn more about your personal name and what that means as far as your destiny and what you want to try to accomplish or achieve in life. Again, this has been the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsAndNews.com. Thank you for joining us. The email for the show is messiahhour@gmail.com. If you want to email the station, that's IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio@gmail.com. And again, if you want to make a financial contribution, you could do so through PayPal, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. PayPal is different than the station email, so I'll say it again, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. And my guest this afternoon has been Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the new hit book, The World of the Ger. Rabbi Katz, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, sorry. I just want to say one closing comment.
Sure.
The name is not fortune-telling. I want to make that also clear. What the name inspection does, the name learning does, it reveals the wisdom so that you can then learn how you are to find Banim, Mazo, Nechayim. I'm not telling you how many kids you'll have, how long you'll live, and where you'll go next Tuesday. The wisdom comes out so that you'll know as it happens what to do when you're approached with Chaim, Mazon, and Banim. Thanks for having me back as always, Ari.
Yes, and great job as always. And again, the websites for Rabbi Katz, solmazal.com and gerger.com. You can pick up the book, The World of the Ger. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great day, a great Shabbat, and a great Chag. Shavuot, of course, is this Sunday, so enjoy it and learn as much as you can. And we'll catch up, everyone, on the other side next week. This has been the Messiah Hour on IsraelSports and NewsRadio.com.